Now to a KARE 11 investigation. Every day, child protection workers across Minnesota are faced with investigating reports of abuse and the difficult job of balancing the need to protect children with the hope of keeping families together. But tonight, a case in which child protection is accused of needlessly ripping a family apart. Here's Lauren Lemanchek with a KARE 11 investigation.
And they're like, we're here to get Dontel, and I'm like, why?
They ruined my life.
This could happen to anybody.
From the very start, Dontel faced serious challenges.
I was lucky enough that when he was born, he did survive.
Essie Pashong says doctors told her that her son's face and chest hadn't developed normally, narrowing his airways.
Dontel had a lot of respiratory problems, a lot of problems breathing.
Over time, these medical records show he was prescribed supplemental oxygen at home, along with a special device for sleep apnea. But by the time he was 10, his mother says Dontel was still having breathing problems. Sometimes so exhausted, his doctors were considering surgery to open up his airways.
What were the options that they laid out on the table for you?
They explained they would cut Dontel from ear to ear, his skull, pull it forward. He would wear a fixator, and we would turn it each day to pull the front of his face out.
Instead of that, the family chose a less complicated surgery.
In the daytime, I keep it capped, and then in the night, I just twist it off.
A tracheostomy, or trach for short. A small tube in his neck so air can bypass the blockage, especially at night. Dontel says it changed his life.
It was breathtaking to me. It was so good.
For the first time, he says he was energized after getting a good night's sleep.
He was able to have friendships. He became Mr. Popular. He started playing sports. He played lacrosse and, just really able to enjoy life.
And to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of his surgery, a vacation to Washington, D.C.
You wanted to celebrate your new life, that's about it. Yeah, trach anniversary trip.
They never imagined this report to Child Protection was about to turn their lives upside down. It claimed Dontel was the victim of medical child abuse, accusing his mother of repeatedly misrepresenting his medical conditions, subjecting him to multiple medical procedures which were not warranted, including the trach. Based on that report, Hennepin County Child Protection got this court order to seize the boy.
They were like, we're taking him.
Dontel was ripped away from his family.
I couldn't talk to my mom. I couldn't see my mom.
Eventually, they were allowed supervised visits a few hours a week, but Dontel spent 7 months in foster care.
It was hard.
All based on the word of one doctor.
That is correct.
A doctor who got a tip from a nurse, but never even saw Dontel. The doctor's name, Alice Swenson. According to this website, a specialist in child abuse at children's hospitals and clinics of Minnesota.
I had a perfect life, and they ruined it.
In the end, there was a court-ordered test done by an independent specialist who found that Dontel's trach was needed, calling it the most viable choice to continue treatment. So the child protection case was dismissed, but only after a court fight took more than a year. It raises the question, what did child protection do to verify those initial claims of medical abuse before ripping a family apart? The answer? Very little. These documents show child protection told a judge that Dontel's mom had homeschooled him and insisted on keeping him on supplemental oxygen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Dr. Swenson's report claimed he'd been tethered to external oxygen needlessly his entire life, dependent, she said, on a wheelchair.
Was that true?
That was not true.
Just look at these report cards. They show Dontel was attending Blue Heron grade school. Here he is in class photos, without oxygen or a wheelchair.
His 5th grade teacher could easily vouch that wasn't on oxygen and he wasn't in a wheelchair.
Remember Dr. Swenson, who filed the original abuse report? She works here at Children's Hospital.
Dontel hadn't visited Children's Hospital at this point for 5 or 6 years.
Records show Dontel's surgery had been done at a different hospital, Gillette Children's Specialty Healthcare. So did Child Protection check with those doctors before seizing Dontel? Not according to this court transcript. Did you or anybody from CPS talk to any of the doctors that had actually treated Dontel at Gillette Children's? Under oath, the child protection worker answered, no. And neither did Dr. Swenson.
And if you go by what she says, it sounds horrible.
So how did Dr. Swenson get involved? Records show she got a tip from one of Dontel's former nurses and started reviewing medical records. The old ones from Children's, but not all of the new ones from Gillette. She didn't even speak to Dontel's longtime pediatrician. According to this transcript, he testified the trach was, quote, the best thing that had happened to Dontel, leaving a young boy to wonder, why was he taken from his family in the first place?
I have so much bad emotions towards them because they ruined my life.
I would say that these are tough jobs and that this is tough work.
Hennepin County's Jennifer DeCubelis told us Child Protection expects workers to contact whomever can give them the best information. But they declined to discuss the details of Dontel's case, except to say a judge okayed his removal.
You're referencing a case where there was a court approval to remove a child.
Dr. Swenson declined an interview. In an email, Children's Hospital told us she and other physicians are mandated reporters, required by law to immediately report if they have reason to believe there's been abuse or neglect. They said it's Child Protection's job to consider information from other sources and determine what's in the best interest of the child. But Dontel and his mom claim Hennepin County Child Protection rushed to judgment. And in this lawsuit, they blame Dr. Alice Swenson for filing a false report without proper investigation, and in doing so, separated a child from his mom.
To protect children, that's her job, and she actually became the abuser.
A federal judge here in Minnesota dismissed the family suit, saying the state courts had already heard medical testimony and found Dr. Swenson to be credible. But now the family has taken the case to the U.S. Court of Appeals. Since his ordeal, Dontel and his mom have moved to California. Dontel says he's much happier now, but the family is speaking out to protect other families from what they call a broken child protection system. Julie?
I can't imagine the frustration of having to wait 7 months before the issue is resolved. And I think everyone knows that there is a problem in child protection with overloaded caseworkers, for sure. This is still a particularly frustrating case.
That's right. They've been trying to get those caseloads down, and they have had some success over the last few years. We're actually going to have a follow-up on that tomorrow, looking at the progress that they've made.
All right. Thanks so much, Lauren.